Let's determine the average value of the function f of x given as square root of 1 minus x squared defined over the closed interval x greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 1. So by definition, we will utilize this formula, that is the average value of function f of x defined over the interval a comma b is given by average value equals 1 over b minus a integral of f of x dx within the interval a to b. So let's utilize this definition to determine the average value of this function. So let me write f average for the average value of the function f of x. So this equals, according to this definition, it is 1 over b minus a. Let's identify the a and b. A is 0 and b is 1. So this becomes b minus a is 1 minus 0 from integral from a to b, that is 0 to 1, and then f of x. So let's substitute the f of x, which is 1 minus x squared under the root dx. And so this simplifies to 1 minus 0 is 1. So 1 over 1 is 1. So basically we can ignore this. Therefore this becomes integral of 0 to 1, 1 minus of x squared under the root dx. So we have to find the value of this definite integral, 1 minus x squared under the root from 0 to 1. For this, I'm going to replace this integration formula. When we compare this integral with this given formula, we can utilize this formula. We see that integral of square root of a squared minus x squared dx is given by x times of square root of a squared minus x squared over 2 plus a squared by 2 sine inverse of x by a. So when you compare this integral with the formula, we see that a equal to 1. So let's replace that. So when we integrate this integral of 1 minus of x squared, we utilize the formula, so then we replace a by 1. So therefore this becomes x times of a squared, that is 1 squared. 1 squared is 1. I write down this as 1, and then minus x squared divided by 2 plus a squared by 2, a equal to 1. So a squared is also 1. So this becomes 1 over 2 sine inverse of x by a. So x by a is 1. So I write down x by 1. Now this has to be evaluated within the limit 0 to 1. So I put 1 over here. Now let's substitute the value, that is the upper limit is 1 and the lower limit is 0. We will substitute the upper limit, that is if we substitute 1, this becomes 1 times of 1 minus of 1 squared over 2 plus 1 by 2 sine inverse of x is 1 over 1. So this is what we get when we apply the upper limit, and we have to put minus, we have to substitute the lower limit, that is 0. So we have a 0 times of 1 minus of 0 square over 2 plus 1 by 2 sine inverse of 0 over 1. We have to evaluate these values. Let's evaluate. So here we have 1 minus 1 square is 0. So this becomes a 0. And here we have 1 by 2 sine inverse of 1. So let me write down, this is 1 by 2 sine inverse of 1, and then minus of, this is 0 because we multiply by 0 times of some number. So this is becoming 0, and sine inverse of 0 is also 0. So this term is also becoming 0. So finally we have a 0 here, and we have to evaluate only the sine inverse of 1. We know that the sine inverse of 1 is pi by 2. So therefore this becomes half of pi by 2, and half of pi by 2 is pi by 4. So therefore this is the average value of the function f of x defined in the interval 0 to 1.